All right, folks, we got an Xbox Wire article here about Fable, which has some pretty good questions and answers that definitely weren't like talked about in the developer direct, which was yesterday. So let's get into it. This is all intro stuff. We don't care. Now, is this a reboot of the entire franchise or the entire series, or does it sit on the existing Fable timeline? So we've always referred to this game as a new beginning because one of the things we were convinced of was that we had to reboot the franchise. Me personally, I do not mind that they rebooted the franchise. I think it's been a long enough time. I hate always saying it, but like there is a bunch of people who haven't played the original Fable. But to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I think probably most people that buy this game probably have played the original. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm not like too opposed to it because when you look at the developer direct, you can't really tell that it's not the Fable from before. You know what I mean? It still looks like Albion. It feels like Albion. It sounds like Albion. We'll see if it plays like Albion though. It's been a long time since the end of that original trilogy. Nearly 2 generations have passed in video game terms, and those original games are still playable to play today, looking even better than they did back then, thanks to the wizardry of back compat, a little Xbox glaze from the people at Turn 10, fucking Playground Games. So we've chosen not to be beholden to the timeline of the original games. Like I said, for me, not a big deal. It looks and feels like Albion. The events, the characters really just allow ourselves the freedom to build our own Albion and tell our own new story within it. So there's a lot of faithfulness in the way we've approached the game, and I certainly think the inspiration of the original trilogy is really clear for everyone to see. Let me know if you guys agree with that, because for me, I literally just said it like 4 different times. It looks like Albion, it feels like Albion, it sounds like Albion. The only thing that isn't quite Albion is like the art style. And maybe it's just that old like Xbox Gen hardware, but it looked a little more stylized. You know what I mean? Like where it does look stylized, but it's like that stylized, hyper realistic look, which it does look great. The game looks amazing, but it feels a little like in between. But we wanted to make sure that this was the beginning of a new story that we would, okay. It looks pretty damn good. It looks pretty damn good. How are you balancing making a new game while honoring Lionhead's work by throwing it away? It's one of the questions that we asked ourselves right at the start. What are the essential components of a Fable game? And I don't mean the features or the locations. I mean conceptually, really, what is the essence of Fable? Now, for me, what is Fable? Fable is... When I think of Fable, I think of like whimsical role-playing. It's very lighthearted. Like the storyline is, I mean, I guess you could call it like dark at times, but it's really lighthearted and has a storybook feel to it. It's not like this gritty fantasy. It's like this fairy tale fantasy. That's what I think of when I think of Fable, like at the very, very core. And then you build on top of that with like the slice of life stuff and like farting on people and shit like that. All right. But one of the things I said to the team was, look, we're not Lionhead. You're definitely not Peter Molyneux. We can't try to make a Lionhead game. This has to be a Playground game because I'm really a firm believer that the personality and the character of a team is visible in the work they do and the games they make. Fair. And I think you can see Lionhead in that original trilogy. It would be pointless, I think, for us to try and ape that. Well, you are trying to ape it in a sense, right? Because you could just show somebody this and they would know it was Fable. So like in a way you did kind of ape that, but I don't even think that's a bad thing. And that's really at the heart of the reboot question, right? It felt imperative to me that this was a reboot because we're starting again as Playground Games and making Playground's Fable, parentheses, Lionhead's Fable. And if I'm totally honest, back then I wasn't entirely sure how faithful, And if I'm being totally honest, back then I wasn't sure how faithful our Fable game would be to the Lionhead games that we love. But as I said during the developer direct, I've been really pleased to see that this is identifiably a Fable game in a lot of ways. Faithful. That's actually kind of interesting because it sounds like they almost wanted to take Fable in like a very different direction because they were pleased to see that that you could tell it was a Fable game. You remember, oh God. Do you guys remember when I could have sworn that this game got rebooted a bunch? Let me look real quick. Fable reboot. Not rebot. Reboot. All right. Did Fable get rebooted? I could have swore this game got rebooted, and I kind of wonder if that's why. If like Microsoft came in and told them that it wasn't Fable-y enough. I'm looking for old articles. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it was like rebooted. And let me just put out a date, 2024. No, it would have been like 2021 or something like that, like somewhere around there. No, not like the reboot, rebooted, restarted, dev reboot, development rebooted. The Fable reboot developed by Playground got scheduled. Okay, following its 2020 announcement, development progressed through 2021. Okay. All right, I think I heard rumors that this was rebooted. I don't. It's fine. But I wonder if that's why, because it wasn't Fable-y. So to answer your own question, what is the essence of a Fable game? We came up with a bunch of things. The first of which I would say we actually inherited from Lionhead. So when we started working on this project, we got a treasure trove of documents that had been in storage. I mean, that's pretty useful. Something that I thought was just brilliantly succinct was one of the documents which said, Fable is a fairy tale, not a fantasy, which is just super neat. Yeah, I remember that from, I'm pretty sure there's like an old Peter Molyneux, because I had like the Game Pro with the Fable. It was actually called Project Ego back in the day. I kind of want to see if... Why am I on Bing? I don't know. Project Ego. I use Edge. You guys can rage at that. Project Ego Fable. Yeah, it was called Project Ego back in the day. Yeah. And there was like a Game Pro thing, and I'm pretty sure Peter Molyneux said that like when he was, doing a press for the game, and it always stuck with me that Fable is a fairy tale and not a fantasy. So I guess our interpretation of what that means is that fairy tale and fantasy probably exist on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think we all know what fantasy is. It's The Witcher, it's Skyrim. Speaking of, where's Elder Scrolls 6? It's Lord of the Rings, it's Game of the Thrones. And I think tonally it's quite grand and it's sweeping, geopolitical. It's serious, you can almost picture the color palette of fantasy. Oh, I wonder if the mic is a good neck crack. And then fairy tale exists right at the opposite end of the spectrum. Fairy tales are intimate. They're small stories about regular people, and they're not grand and sweeping. They're very personal and whimsical, and ultimately they deal with what happens when magic touches the lives of ordinary folk, and also they have this kind of moral component to them. Yes, I do agree with that. And I think that it's a brilliant description of what Fable really is. It runs through our art style, it runs through our world building, and we've really executed against that fairy tale idea in every part of the game that we're building. Kudos to you guys. And then Fable has this other tonal pillar, if you like, which is Britishness. I don't even know what that means. Hold on, let me just finish this. You can't mention Fable without mentioning that it's quintessentially British. It's cliche, but it's kind of true. And I don't think that's just because Albion is obviously medieval England through a lens. And it's not just because the cast have British accents. I always know that Fable has like British humor, but I don't even know what British humor is. I think it's funny. I was actually watching, I watched this short. It was like The Shadow Man. And and it cracked me up. Like, I don't really know what British humor is. I think it's just like really dry humor, but I do think it's hilarious. I'm just saying, I don't know how to describe British humor, I guess. I think in the original games and in our game as well, there's a very British sensibility, a tone of voice, a way of thinking about things. And it goes to the humor as well. That British humor that the original games used to such great effect is an absolutely essential component. And then it's about choice and consequence. I really want to get into if they talk about more of the morality, because that's another thing I think of with Fable, like with the horns and the halos and stuff like that. We call that freedom, in the sense that the freedom to make the choices you want, it's the freedom to be the kind of hero you want to be. It's the freedom to go where you want and do what you want. Yes. I've been hearing this line, I swear, in like every open world game since like 2010. I'm so tired of hearing it. And those things wrap up into what people really remember about the original Fable games, and therefore it becomes imperative that we include that ability to make choices. Our game is packed full of choices. That is a DNA level thing that they're doing, which is great. I didn't see, you guys let me know in the comments. I don't think I saw in the Xbox Direct, I don't think I ever saw any like dialogue options or no. I'm trying to remember, because I remember the main character went up to like the shopkeeper. I think they just talked, but I don't think like they showed any like dialogue trees or anything. How does this story begin, and what's the quest you're following? Okay, in classic Fable fashion, you begin the game as a child. We absolutely love that. And that's when N knows, okay, they said this in the thing, your family gets turned to stone, and then you start off on this grand adventure. The inciting incident is what happens to your grandma in the village. You're suddenly alone in the village and you're forced to go out into the world. And there's one last thing that your grandmother said to you. She mentions Bowerstone, the Heroes Guild, and how it's at the Heroes Guild that the great heroes live. And if you ever need help, you're to go to the Heroes Guild. Sound advice. But the nature of our game is that as soon as you leave your village, you can go pretty much anywhere. It's truly open world, so the world is yours to explore. And we've written the story so that although there are stakes, your grandmother, your village, there's no ticking time bomb. Yeah, I like that. I like that, you know, it's if it's going to be like that, I'm assuming it's just going to be like, what's the term? There's not going to be any like level gating, like in like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's going to be like, what's the term? I can't think about it, or I can't think of it. Anyway, there's nothing forcing you along the like the main quest, because we want to allow the player the permission to go and just do something else in the game. I'm trying to think of some more games that are like that, that are really just open like that. I mean, you can think of like a Zelda game, like Breath of the Wild. I'm pretty sure. I don't. Level scaling. I don't remember if Elden Ring had level scaling. I don't know. All right, how does the open world work? Are you level gating or encouraging people to go places in a certain order? So right from the start of the project, we always felt it was important that the player can go wherever they want from the moment you leave your village and venture out into Albion for the first time. Even if we know the majority will do the sensible thing, you know, I've got to go save my grandma. We know that there are a bunch of players who are going to be like, okay, I'm going to see what the world is about. Let me know which one you guys are. You guys like straight into the first quest? Me, I'm more of like, I'm going to go look around and I'll kind of get to the main quest whenever. We want to accommodate them, probably more than accommodate them. We want to make sure that they're having fun, exciting, immersive things to do wherever they choose to go in the world. So we took that as sort of a North Star. And then we built progression and leveling and difficulty balancing around that. I don't want to go north and then find that there's an area I can't get into because I'm not a sufficient level. We'll talk more about leveling and progression at a future date, but you should know that being able to go to any one of the settlements in the world and have fun things to do was imperative. Yeah. I will say the game looks gorgeous, but the frame rate kind of is scary. Definitely scary, but the game looks really good. How are you approaching combat? Okay, real quick. The combat was the one thing that I felt really not that great. Or it looks like it don't feel that great. It didn't feel very weighty. I'm going to assume that's like an older build, but until I get proven wrong, I'm assuming that's how the combat's going to be. It felt very like weightless, very like shallow. I don't know. And Fable's never been a game that's like heavy combat, you know, focused, but you would think with all this time, the combat would be a little more, it would look a little more satisfying than it did, but we're taking the, I wonder if they're going to do the thing where the like, on the Xbox, like Y, B, and X are the different, like X is melee. I think Y was range, and I think B was magic. We're taking the game's original mix of melee, range, and magic, and turning it into what we call style weaving combat. We wanted to create a combat system which was fluid enough that would allow you to really frictionlessly, geez, why would you even say that? Seamlessly swap from melee to range to magic, even without even a frame's delay on it. Okay. In bold words. You should be able to strike with a sword and then hurl a fireball in a smooth movement. So that's what we set out to achieve with combat. I mean, if they can make it like very seamless and very like flowy like that, then I think that sounds really cool. The combat scenarios you're going to find in our game are often about groups of enemies, and usually a tactical mix of enemies who will force you into choosing how you use your ranged, your melee, and your magic to crowd control and to pick them off and really navigate the particular combat challenges. And there's still ample variety to pick what kind of fighter you want to be. I'm usually like a big two-handed guy, but I like ranged every now and then. I'm not like a big wizard dude. You can opt for big damage spells, and you can opt for tactical crowd control spells, or you can go to super precise or really blunt force. Okay. The big one thing I just remembered. I hope, and they didn't show this, I hope they have demon doors, like demon door puzzles or riddles in the game, because that was another thing that is very, very Fable, is having these demon doors everywhere. It looks like there are some emergent elements to combat. We see a hob accidentally hit one of his own companions, and I must have missed that. I don't remember that part. And enemy weak spots, I do remember that. I think that was the dude in armor. Okay, is that built into how you play? All right, very much so. All of our enemies have strengths and weaknesses, and part of the fun of combat is figuring out how to exploit them using the different weapons and abilities you've equipped with yourself. And obviously that sort of compounds when you've got multiple enemies in the same encounter and you're trying to marshal all of them and find the best way through it. That hob that accidentally killed his pal in the video. Oh, sorry, Bussy. It's my dog. My cat, Buster. In the video just happened by accident when we were capturing from the build. We thought we'd keep it in because it's funny and it's very much in keeping with that fan favorite enemy. Who would win in a fight, a grunt or a hob? But yeah, keeping in as much of that kind of friendly fire stuff as possible always adds a little bit of chaos and a lot of humor to combat. I have to go back and find what part they're talking. I mean, I know what part they fought the hobs, but I don't remember seeing them like hurt each other. And that's, I guess, one of the questions we asked ourselves a lot. If humor is important to Fable, how does it manifest in combat, an inherently serious pursuit? So I think those fairy tale creatures have a ton of personality, and thus, you know, a bunch of humor about them, and there's slapstick elements to them as well. And game looks great. How has the classic Fable morality system changed? All right off the bat, from what I remember in the direct, it seems like I don't remember seeing horns or halos, which if that's not in the game, that's really disappointing. It seemed like people were, it was more of like an individual thing. Like one individual person might like you and then the next person might not like you, instead of like you have horns and you're evil and everybody's scared of you. So let's see what they have to say about that. So to take it back right to the start, morality was always such an important part of the trilogy. I think it was the best part of the trilogy. Even the box art was really about the dichotomy of good and evil. So we talked about morality a great deal in this project. I think that original trilogy is inextricably linked with the concept of good and evil, and I think morality in video games has moved on in the intervening point. It has moved on, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's in the best. That doesn't mean it's better than what it used to be. I think you can look at something like Mass Effect Andromeda and just see that it's really beyond pointless. And so like Fallout 4. How we think about morality in the world today has really informed how we want to represent it as a game system in this game. Okay. That's to say there is no objective good and there is no objective evil. Okay, well, I actually have to agree or disagree with that. Even in a video game context, I think there is objective good and there is objective evil. I think I just really want the horns. Really, it's just about people's subjective opinions and what they choose to value in someone else when they make that judgment. So yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense because I guess it's a little more nuanced because, you know, you can be like a chicken chaser, you can kick chickens, and like to a normal person, that's really bad. But if there's like a psychopath in that town and he's like really evil, he might really be into that, you know, kind of stuff. So yeah, let's just finish reading and see if they talk about if your appearance changes. So as you saw in the developer direct, our version of morality isn't a sliding scale. I bet it's like a behind the scenes sliding scale for each individual person though. We've chosen to anchor this around the actions you do and specifically the things you do in Albion that are witnessed by at least one other person. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. So if the things you do are seen by one or more people, you'll start to earn a reputation for that thing. Obviously, we always use the chicken kicking example because it's classic Fable. So if a person sees you kicking a chicken, you will start to get a reputation as a chicken chaser. And if enough people see you do it and you do it a lot, that reputation will become one of the things you're known for in that settlement. And people will react to you based on what they think about that particular reputation. Okay. I wonder if it's always limited to one person though. Or if like the one person thinks you're bad, does that begin to spread? Or am I just completely just talking out my ass? Because it sounds like you'll become known for that in that settlement. So like maybe over time, like it's like instead of like a worldwide scale, like sliding scale, it's more like a village by village or settlement by settlement sliding scale. But crucially, different people will view that reputation in different ways. Kicking chickens is objectively good or objectively evil in a way everybody will agree on. It comes down to the unique worldview of the NPC, what they think of you because of it. The same applies for being generous and being a bigamist. What the fuck is a bigamist? What is a bigamist? Oh, a whore. A person who commits the offense of marrying someone else while already married to another person. Ah, interesting. Could be a man whore or a woman whore. All right. Being a thief and so on. There are a significant number of these reputations that you can get. You have a word cloud. I actually do remember that, like the chicken chaser thing popped up, of reputations in every settlement. Okay, so it does seem to be settlement by settlement, and they can be different from place to place. Okay, it means that you can create completely different identities in all the different settlements by being a different person and behaving in different ways. Huh. It means you can create completely different identities in all the different settlements by being a different person and behaving in different ways. So you can be evil in one place and you can be an angel in a different settlement. I'm leaning towards I don't really like that. And it is, I guess it's more realistic, but it does take away some of that Fable choice and consequence. Like if you're going to choose to be evil, then you get the consequences of being an evil guy. I think it's kind of stupid to, we'll just have to see how it goes. I'm not a big fan of like you can be good in one place and evil in another. And I just thought, like, if that's the case, there's no way they're putting like horns and halos in this, because they're not gonna change your appearance every time you go into a different village, and that really sucks. That sucks. There's no way they're gonna put yeah, there's no way they're gonna put not even like the tattoos and stuff on you. All right, so the word cloud is, that's bullshit. The word cloud is how people see you in that particular settlement, and therefore it defines how they react to you in every way they can react. And these peasants are not backwards in telling you what they think as you walk around. It's not the biggest deal in the world, because the world still feels like Fable, but I do think that halo and horns and stuff like that, I do think that is, when they were earlier in the article, when they were talking about the essence of Fable, other than it being like this fairy tale, not fantasy, I think that is like one of the pillars of Fable. So it sucks that they took that out, but I'm willing to give this kind of like settlement by settlement reputation system a chance at least. I gotta readjust. Okay, so that ranges from catcalling you in the street, how likely you are to be romanced, if you can marry them. It can even affect prices in shops. There's a whole systemic trickle-down effect of your reputation to that experience in that particular settlement. Sick. It's a more potential-filled system for you to go play with, because you're not juggling the things you do. You're juggling who sees you do it. So if you're just being evil, but nobody sees you do it, if you, I don't know, I'm making something up. If you lure a villager out somewhere and like you know, get rid of them and nobody sees you do it, that doesn't go towards an evil reputation. Somebody has to actually see you do it. So far, I'm not going to lie to you guys. So far, I'm not a big fan of the morality changes that they've kind of put into the new Fable. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Okay. There's a whole, okay. You're deciding whether you're okay with walking around the town people, with the town people thinking that you're that. Like, I definitely get what they're going for, and I don't think it's automatically going to be terrible, but I'm automatically kind of skeptical of it. And if you're not, there are always things you can do about that to redress the balance. Okay, you could just pay the town crier to start shouting about a new reputation to overwrite one of the old ones. Okay. And if there are things you can do about that to redress the balance. You could just pay the town crier to start shout. You can pay somebody. Is that a thing? Was that a thing before? I genuinely don't remember. It's been so long since I played Fable. Fable 1 town crier. Is that a thing? Okay, so the town crier, this is Fable the Lost Chapter's anniversary, is an NPC typically located in major areas like Bowerstone, responsible for announcing the hero's renown, achievements, and new titles. They function as a way to update the world on the player status, and in some contexts allow for title changes. Now, the title changes aren't your reputation, though. It wasn't like you're good and evil. It wasn't like you went to the town crier and you could set your morality back to the middle scale. I think it was just like, you know, like king of the Hobbs or something if you killed like 1,000 Hobbs, or like king of the Balverines if you killed 1,000 Balverines. It was like stuff like that, right? The town crier highlights your fame, announcing your new titles after you purchase them or earn them through renown. Yeah. Boy, that is stupid. You can just, all right. In the direct, they said this game is about big choices and little choices, and the game is full of choices and choice and consequence, and there's literally no consequence to your choices if you can just pay the town crier to reset your reputation. Ugh. Man, that sucks. Because even in like Mass Effect 1, like if I went like full Renegade or full like Paragon, And like, you know, like halfway through, I'm like, man, I don't really want to, you know, do this anymore. It's nice being like, you have to bear the weight of your choices, and that's just how you are. But like, I don't want to like go talk to Garrus and he just resets my reputation in the middle of the game. You know what I mean? That's stupid. That's actually really dumb. If they were smart, they would just put it back to the old way, and they would get rid of this stupid. I mean, they got time. You know, it can't be that hard to just reset the crier to announce your titles and like your achievements and stuff. But to overwrite your old reputation with a new one is it really eliminates any urgency to basically any choice that you're making in the game, and that's really stupid. It's why we say our game will never judge you. Shut up. I'm annoyed now, but the people of Albion will. Sometimes people have said, well, that's the same thing, surely, isn't it? But in a diegetic way. I don't even know what that word means. It's really not, because different people, isn't that like a directing term where you can hear sound before you can, it's like the background sound or something? I don't know. Because different people in Albion will have different perspectives on the things you've done, which again kind of mirrors the real world. Dude, I'm like so bummed out. I don't even want to fucking read about this. Ugh, the living population of NPCs. I actually thought this was cool. What does that offer the player? The living NPCs. It reminds me of Oblivion when they had the Radiant AI. I'm guessing this is Radiant AI 1.5. The living population is 1,000 NPCs, each with roles, personalities, routines. That whole concept of persistent NPCs, each of whom is unique, a whole bunch of ways that you can go and interact and mess about with, is incredibly complex. Yeah, I would imagine a lot of dev time was spent in getting these NPCs right. I guarantee you that is what took a big chunk of dev time. When you start working on it, you realize that every settlement has to have enough houses with enough beds for everyone in the settlement to go and sleep at the end of the day. Oh yeah. You know, I never actually really thought of that. Like that each of these 1,000. So there has to be like at least 1,000 houses. Yeah, I never really thought about that. It was a fun day when we explained that a particular settlement or a particular requirement to our environment art team, but they rose to the challenge like they do with everything. In games, you don't normally have to connect the dots quite so precisely. You know, you're just building a nice looking town, but in Fable, it has to be a functional town. That's really cool. And I bet that's why I think they specifically mentioned about how big Bowerstone's going to be, because every person has to have somewhere to live and work. So that's really cool. I like that immersion. As an example, early in development, we couldn't work out why one town was so empty during the day. And when we zoomed out into debug mode, it was because NPCs were getting up to go to work, but they lived too far away from their job. So they started walking to work, but didn't get there before their schedule told them to turn around and go back to bed. Oh, okay. That's funny. It required a lot of working through, but it pays off. As you play the game, you get to know the names of the individual NPCs. I think that's a really cool. I wonder if they'll add NPCs like down the road. You get to know what they like, what they're looking for in a partner, where they live, where they work, all that kind of stuff. Cool. Don't worry, guys. We're almost to the end of the article here. Hold on. Let me see how much is left. Yeah, a couple more questions we're going to go through. Living population. Okay. Does the living population tie into the main quest? Tying the main quest and the living population together in a really overt way didn't seem like the right way to go, so we've deliberately linked them in the lightest possible fashion. You know, there are some times when characters in the main quest will reference your reputations or the things you've done previously, but we never want to force the player to have to go and interact with those things in order to progress the main quest. Yeah, that makes sense. We know there are some players, and we call them bards, who are just going to play through the main story. They're going to start at the start and they're going to get to the end, and that's going to be their experience. That's entirely fine, a respectable way to play. But there are some players, we call them architects. Who made up these stupid names? There's just people who mainline and these people who 100% everything, platinum everything, who know we're going to go around and mess with all the systems and see where they can push them, see what they can achieve with it, and we want them to have the freedom to do that at any point as well. British humor is a big part of this game, and we've seen British comedians in the cast. Can you tell us more about the comedic side? British humor manifests in a lot of different ways throughout the game. I think the living population are really funny because they react to you in a very dry British way. And yes, it's in the story and the characters you meet. We have an amazing cast in the game. Talk more about the cast. We're inspired by the incredibly rich variety of British comedies that have been around the last 20. Peep Show, the IT crowd or IT crowd. I've heard of this and many others. We started with The Office, which the American version is infinitely superior, which started out as quintessentially British, but also travels really, really well. So yeah, they're admitting that the American version of The Office is better. Not just that IP, but a lot of techniques and devices that's been popularized, you know. Are they going to have like that documentary, like Office camera point of view? Like Jim looking into the camera or something. It's that really grounded, awkward style of humor that really appeals to us. And the actors have been in a lot of shows. Okay, the other cool thing about The Office is something we've kind of nicked. Maybe you've seen in our trailers, we have some sort of mockumentary style interviews. I remember that from like the first trailer that they did with that guy with the glasses. I think that a lot of people assume we just did that for those trailers, but it's actually a device we use throughout the game. I hope they don't go too far into it. Yeah, I just don't want that. I don't want to feel like I'm watching like a TV show. I've never seen it in games before, but it allows you. Yeah, I'm not like worried about it or nothing. I just hope they don't like overdo it. There's a lot of things we haven't seen here. Can you tease what else might learn about before the game arrives? So they didn't talk about the main story too much beyond the opening quests. Develop Direct is more about us answering a bunch of questions. We know people of the game. I'm so glad they have a character creator. Character customizations is one thing we were delighted to clear up. Thank the Lord. That's something we've been sitting on for years now, but it's great to be able to tell fans that. Of course, we have our character customization. In Fable, you can be the hero you want to be in every sense. That was a long ass article. That was 37 minutes and counting. All right. Well, there you have it. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any like questions or concerns with the Fable reboot. I'm like 95% sure I'm really going to like the game. There's a couple things I definitely don't like. The morality system, it sounds to me, it sounds like they botched it a little bit. Because I could get on board with like, all right, maybe you don't have halos and horns. It's just like a little more nuanced than that. It's not a surface level. Like it changes from town to town or person to person. Not my favorite thing, but I can get behind that because it's not like that big of a deal. But first, for how big they're pushing like this choices in everything that we do thing, to be able to reset your reputation for, I'm guessing like gold or something. That really rubs me the wrong way. That's really stupid. That's a stupid idea. If they were smart, they would take that out of the game ASAP. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Have an amazing day, and God bless.